ladies and gentlemen, I want to introduce to you to the sporting fans what I have today on this show. Charlotte, North Carolina professional boxing with the world of champion and the promoter, Miss Bellonora McCallum. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another exciting episode of the Paul Brown Show. This evening, my guest will be no one other than the Charlotte professional boxing promoter, Miss Bellonora McCallum. How you doing there, Miss McCallum?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, world of champion boxing. Tell us a little bit about McCallum. Tell us about Bellonora.
About me, I am a professional boxing promoter here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I've been doing it for about a year and a half now. I'm also, interesting enough, an NFL agent and a USA Track and Field agent also.
So you're an attorney.
I am an attorney as well.
Oh, God.
I am.
She's an attorney as well, ladies and gentlemen.
I leave that part out so not to scare people.
Okay, I'm sorry. What inspired you to want to become a professional boxing promoter?
Interestingly enough, and the way I got into boxing, I've always loved boxing. I've always watched it. I grew up in the Tyson era, so I loved watching Tyson, Evander Holyfield, all those wonderful fighters. I actually was working here in Charlotte, and I was looking for ways to get healthy, to work out. And I said, I need to do something different, something that's going to keep me consistent. And I looked up boxing. Boxing just popped in my head, and I did some research. I found Coach Al Simpson, who's the actual coach for the Charlotte Boxing Academy. Okay. I'm here in Charlotte, North Carolina. I called him up. He said, come on out, try it. I went, I took one of my friends with me. We thoroughly enjoyed it. It wasn't just like a regular kickboxing class. He actually taught the fundamentals, and the techniques of boxing. And that really made me dig into it further and really get behind the scenes. So I did some research, studied, because I am an attorney, studied the statutes, and figured out what needed to be done in order to start promoting. And that's what I did.
What, as far as, describe what it takes to be a boxing promoter?
Patience. A lot of patience and a strong personality, and just a strong person in general, because and more importantly, as a female in industry, I get a little bit more flack than probably usual. But you just have to be able to negotiate. You have to be willing to stick to your grounds. You have to be willing to not allow people to take advantage of you and your business. So you just have to be patient, and I say patient because money doesn't come quickly. It's not a quick turnaround. You're building a business. And then you have to be strong. You got to be ready to go toe to toe with these boxers and managers and agents and trainers and all those type of things.
Okay, growing up, we used to hear one of the famous boxing promoter, Don King.
Yes.
What type of style does he have, and do you have a similar type style? Or because he was all around.
Don King is a legend. I am not yet comparing myself to him yet. Hopefully I can get to that status. But I would say I like the way that he made it a family business. And I like the way he just really focused on building boxing. And that's what the goal of McCallum Enterprise World of Champions. And that's my goal. I want to do what he's done in his state and in his area here in North Carolina, in Charlotte. Everybody can afford to go to Las Vegas. They can't go to Atlantic City to go to these fights. So why not bring them here? Charlotte has a wonderful market for that. We're building, we're expanding, we're growing. I really feel like, just based on the research and the marketing research I've done here, boxing can be successful. We've had some great fighters come from out of here. Kelvin Seabrook and Calvin Brock are just to name a few.
Okay, when you have this event going on and all the excitement going on as far as the fighters, how do you handle all that's going on?
I have a fantastic team, Paul. I have a team of about 10 to 15, and it's my family and one of my closest friends who I consider family. They really keep things going behind the scenes, and I'm still not at a point they want me to actually sit down and enjoy the show and kind of meet and greet with folks that come, but I'm still not at that point where I'm ready to sit down. They are working to help me do that, but they keep the show oiling. I have folks to deal with my concessions, that do the front door tickets. I handle usually the boxes in the back, ring girls. It's a team of 10 to 15 that really keeps everything going.
The planning process of having a professional boxing match. What's the estimated time and what all does it consist of?
Where World of Champions is doing it in probably a 2 months time, month and a half, 2 months time. But we're still doing small shows. Eventually, when you get to that larger scale, it will be planning 3 to 4 months ahead of time, so you can do that adequate marketing. But for the level that we have and the number of people that we have coming, we do at least a month and a half to 2 months in advance. It requires you to do everything: find the location, get the ring situated, find out where you're going to put the ring, get chairs, concessions, that's food and drinks. Most importantly, get the fighters. I do my own matchmaking. I haven't hired a matchmaker, so I do it myself. So I have to match all the fights, make sure contracts are sent out. There's a lot that goes to it that's behind the scenes whenever you're doing a fight like this.
I know you're up here in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes.
What type of support do you get from our community? Because boxing is not that large right now in Charlotte at this time.
Right. We're hoping to get more support. A lot of times when the community knows the fighters that are actually coming, for example, Jared Robinson, he does really well with selling tickets. He's 14-0 now, so he's one of the guys that we're focusing on. But a lot of times, if you get fighters that they know and that are in the local boxing gyms, these fighters will sell tickets. They'll hand out posters and flyers, and that will encourage people from the community to come. Our goal is that when they see World of Champions, when they see this logo, they'll know it's a great production. They're going to come automatically. So we haven't reached that status yet. We're growing to that, but we notice that the community will come out if they hear about it, if they're boxing lovers, and especially if they know the fighters that are fighting.
The fighters, how far away does some of your fighters come from?
Oh, wow. We've had fighters come from all over. The furthest we've had is Ashley Theophane, who actually just was on the undercard for the Mayweather fight that took place a couple months ago. He was actually on the undercard, and we were so excited about that, to have him fight on a World of Champions card and then go and fight on Mayweather's undercard. That was great. And he's actually from London, so he came all the way from London. But we get him from Florida all the way up from D.C., and we have a title fight this fight. I'm so excited about. It's a WBC title fight. And these guys are coming from I think Ohio. The management's coming from Seattle, Washington, but these fighters are coming from Ohio and places of that nature. So I'm really excited about the title fight we're having.
How long have you been handling the World of Champions?
About a year and a half. About a year and a half. So this will probably be my 8th show, boxing event.
And each show, what seems to be the things that you feel to be that you're learning about this whole promotion thing?
There's a lot that I learned about the industry. It's different when you are a spectator just watching boxing from the outside, but whenever you know the ins and the outs and everything that's going on in the background and the ups and the downs of the boxing industry, that's when it gets really interesting. And that's when you really decide if you really want to stay in boxing or if you want to give it up. And I haven't seen anything yet that made me move on and give it up. It's a challenge, and I knew that it would be a challenge. I wasn't exactly prepared. I was thinking it was going to be a welcoming, open arms, but it's not always that, and it's not going to always be that in all your industries. You're going to have to fight for the position that you're looking to gain, and I'm up for the fight.
World of Champions. What made you come up with that name?
I sat down with a couple of McCallum Enterprise at the time, and it's still under McCallum Enterprise. I sat down with team members, and we looked at what the goal was. what do we want to do with this boxing promotional company? We want to promote world champions. We don't want people just to stay here in North Carolina. We don't want our fighters just to stay here in North Carolina. We want them to travel the world. And World of Champions plans to actually sign fighters at some point to our promotional company, so that when they go out, they will have the World of Champions logo. When we send them to London, when we send them to Russia, when we send them all over the United States, they will see that they are part of World of Champions, and we're sending our best fighters out to compete. And that's what it was about. Not just a champion, but a world champion.
I know you said that what you're going to do is have your logo on that fighter. What does that mean for that fighter to carry your name into that ring?
It means a lot. It really does. It shows, not only does it get our logo and our name out, when they see the fighter on TV, whenever we do our own televised fights, and when we send them out to do the HBO and the Cinemax televised fights, they'll see that logo, and then hopefully it'll spark an interest for spectators to look this logo up and this name up and follow us, and follow the career and the development of World of Champions, and hopefully come to some of our shows. So it sends that marketing out beyond North Carolina. It sends it to internationally, and that's what we're hoping to do. We want to get the word out for World of Champions, and we want people to know about World of Champions.
You have a fight coming up October 26th. Tell us a little bit about the fight and what all should we expect.
You should expect action-packed bouts. We're going to have what we try to do, and what we've tried to do for most of our shows. We want to show community support by putting amateur fighters on. And again, I work with Coach Al Simpson from the Charlotte Boxing Academy with that. We usually put about 3 or 4 amateur bouts on. We let these guys see how it feels to be in front of a big crowd. Now, they already fight USA Boxing Amateur, so they know how it is to fight in front of a crowd. But when you switch over to professional, they're different things. And I want them to get adjusted to that, so that they can see I'm fighting towards something. I'm working hard for a reason. I'm not going to have to go out to another state or to another place. I could stay right here in Charlotte, in my hometown, build my name and build my brand and become a professional fighter. I want them to see that. I want them to become familiar with the World of Champions brand. For October 26th, as I said, we have a huge title fight, WBC title fight. We have 2 gentlemen who are number 4 and number 12 in the WBC and in the National Association of Boxing Federation. Okay. So we are definitely ecstatic about that. We're trying to get out as much marketing as possible for it.
What does it take to be competitive with Vegas, New York, New Jersey boxing?
Sponsorship. I would definitely say sponsorship. This is the time now for sponsors to jump on board, because that's what makes those promoters in those big areas, Vegas and Atlantic City. There's so many people there that need to market and advertise. That's a part of that, and they know people come to Vegas. They know they're coming to Atlantic City for these fights. So I would say sponsors are a huge part of the success, so that you're able to, the more sponsors you have, the bigger the show you're able to develop and really put on for the audience. So I would say that's definitely a difference, and that's what they do in those locations. If you notice, anytime you see a fight, you'll see a logo in the back, all throughout the ring, and on the fighters also. So I think that's a big plus.
So it's a great benefit for people to get sponsored.
Absolutely.
And they don't realize that, because this is very vital to letting people know about their business. Yes,
it's a great way. It's a great way, because usually at our fights we will not only introduce your business, but when we have those type of sponsors there, we'll let them come in the ring, introduce themselves, introduce a particular bout, because sometimes you can be a sponsor of a particular bout. So it's wonderful marketing opportunities. We'll let you set up a table if you want to give out free marketing materials and things of that nature. We'll have team members who will give that out for you. If you're selling a particular product, you can set up a table and sell a particular product. So it's a great way to interact with the community directly and get that word out. And that one person will take this and take it to their community, and 3 or 4 other people say, well, what's that? What do you have? And that's even more of a marketing opportunity for sponsors.
So how many fights should we expect to see on October 26th?
Generally, I have. I don't want to keep them folks there all night, but we usually have at least maybe 8 to 10 bouts, and that doesn't even include the amateur. So we'll have 2 or 3, 3 to 4, amateur fights, and then we'll have 8 to 10 professional fights. They're 4-rounders, so it's not as long as people would think. You're not there all night. They're action packed. They go quickly, but we want to give you your money's worth. We don't want to get you there and not keep you entertained and show you some really good boxing.
Some of the boxers that you have coming in, are they kind of like new? Are they older, experienced, or how do you kind of like put them together, being that you're the matchmaker?
Most of the definitely you try to match up experienced fighters with experienced fighters. Now, we do have some guys who are pro debuters, and usually you'll match them up with guys who may have had 2 or 3 fights. Correct. So you'll have a fighter who it may be his first time fighting professionally. Now, he's fought amateur, but this may be his first professional fight. So you link him up with somebody who's had 1 or 2 fights, or someone who else is making their pro debut. But the experienced fighters, you usually try to balance it out. If they haven't had many wins, you want to make sure you match them up with someone who hasn't had as many wins, but just as experienced, because you want the fights to last. You'll have that first round knockout, which is exciting, but when you get it consistently, that can teeter the crowd a little bit. So you want to make sure you have some action-packed fights.
When you have these fights, how do Bellonora gets hyped up? I mean, because when you see all this going on, all this, and your production made this possible, right, how does that make you feel inside?
Excited, definitely on a high all night, and it's a lot of adrenaline. Like, you used a great word for that, because it's stressful and it's exhausting putting everything together before, but it seems like that night all of that goes away when you have a show that flows and goes well, and my team is excited about the show. It makes it a wonderful experience, and that's what keeps me going. That excitement, that adrenaline that I get that night of putting a great production on, and actually having people come up to me saying, this was a great show, this is the best show you've had. And it seems like every show we have, it gets better and better, and that's the goal of World of Champions. It's never been a situation where they're like, well, that last show you had was probably better than this one. Every time we have people say, this was even better, and that's what we're working towards. Every show you have that we have, we want it to be better and better and better, and hopefully we'll break through the ceiling. We will always keep our audience on edge, because that's what's going to keep them coming back. If they already predict what's going to happen, they know what the show's going to be about, they'll pick and choose. I want them to be so excited where it's to the point where I don't know what's going to happen this time. I need to go. I don't want to miss out on it. And so that's what we do. It provides that excitement for me to be able to provide that type of entertainment for our World of Champions fans.
You seem to have a lot of energy.
You need a lot of energy.
Being a female boxing promoter, how do you feel you're respected from the male promoters?
I didn't come into it automatically thinking that they would respect. A lot of time I think I got a lot of the reception was I wouldn't be here long, just to see kind of if I was going to stick it out. And I've really endured. And like I said, I've endured because of the support of my family and the World of Champions team. I think I'm slowly building that respect, because whenever you get to a point where people specifically say, I love the way you do business, let's continue to do business, whatever you need, let us know. We want to consistently work with you. That's what it's about. It doesn't really matter what people think of me, as long as they can say, World of Champions, Bellonora McCallum, that whole World of Champions team, they do a fantastic job. They're professional people. We want to continue to work with them. That's the respect that I want. All the other stuff will come. As I slowly build and World of Champions gets out there and the world knows about World of Champions, that respect will come. My concern is making sure people respect the way we do business and acknowledge it.
That process that is coming through, do you feel like it's coming fast or slow?
I would say it's consistent. It's not too slow. It's not going really fast. I think it's going at the pace that it needs to, so that I'm prepared. Because if it shoots to the top, I won't be prepared, and that's how you end up back at the bottom. I want it to be, and I've been told by my family and team members, because I think sometimes I do want it to go really fast and go ahead and let's get to the top. But I think it's appropriate to take your time, know what the struggle is to get to the top, and once you're at the top, you appreciate it and you stay there a lot longer because you've actually built and you've really learned the process and you knew what it took to get there. So I think that it's going at a consistent pace right now, where it's slowly building. We're slowly letting the public know we're here. Soon folks are going to catch on. By and by, we have folks catching on, and eventually we'll be at the top.
Being this is your short period of time, what would you consider to be one of your biggest issues that you had to face, and how did you handle it?
The biggest issues are matchmaking. That's a huge issue because when you first starting out, I didn't know a lot of fighters. I didn't know a lot of managers. So I was kind of stuck with just everybody who was around in the area. And while they're good people, you want to expand out. And so I think it just took introducing yourself, networking, making calls, researching, finding where other boxing gyms are outside of the state. And it kind of went with each other. When you work with one person, they like the way you work, they refer you to somebody else. And eventually people, in the name of World of Champions is getting out there, a lot of times they'll go on the website, WSC's website, and they'll go on the Boxing Commission's website and see that I'm doing a show, or just contact me and say, hey, I would love to work with you. I've heard good things. So I would say the challenge was actually introducing myself to people in the industry, finding out who you can trust, who you can't trust, and matching fights and overcoming that. And that's how I overcame it, just consistently staying with it, introducing myself, and paying close attention. You have to listen a lot of times so you can find out who's for you, who's against you, that type of situation.
You made a statement that you can trust and you can't trust. What do you mean by that?
I mean, everybody, it's a business.
Correct.
It's a business. And so a lot of times, if it's not beneficial for World of Champions, you have to be careful with things of that nature, because a lot of times people will be so excited, but it may not be a benefit for both parties. Mm-hmm. And so you automatically, I have one of those spirits where everybody should be trusted and everybody should be, given that opportunity. But every once in a while you have to step back and really evaluate. And others may not mean do anything intentionally or doing it on purpose, but that's why it's my responsibility to make sure that I evaluate the entire situation and make sure it's a benefit not only for that person but World of Champions, and make sure that we're getting the coming out on top in the situation, and that it's a way for us to grow and develop, that we're not staying stagnant. So that's what I mean by things you can trust and can't trust, situations you can trust and situations you may not be able to trust, where it may sound good from the outside, but once you get in, it's not what you thought it would be. Those type of situations.
What do you feel is the biggest difference between an amateur fighter and a professional fighter?
Headgear. Professional fighters don't use headgear. Professional fighters' gloves are 10-pound gloves, whereas 10-ounce gloves, not pound, 10-ounce gloves, whereas amateur fighters, theirs are larger. There are quite a few changes in rounds. Amateur fighting is 3 rounds, whereas professional usually 4, and the time is usually 2 minutes. Whereas professional is 3 minutes. So there's some changes in there, not major changes, but when you step into a ring as a professional, you got to be ready.
I know the fight is on October 26th. Where is it being held at?
Center Stage at NODA. That's off of 2315 North Davidson Street. So in the NODA area. If you're from Charlotte, you know where NODA is. If you're not, 2315 North Davidson Street.
Are you excited?
It's very, can't you tell? I'm very excited about it. It's about 2 weeks away. So just getting everything wrapped up and finalized.
What would you say to our viewing audience? Why should they come and get involved into boxing?
Boxing is a sport. It's an exciting sport. It's 2 females or males really getting in the ring and showing their skills. And that's what it's about. It's building. It's really building their skills and showing that they are athletes. No different from football or basketball. These are athletes that are getting in the ring and showing their skills and ability to really box and the techniques of boxing. So I would say if you're into a night of boxing, if you've never experienced boxing, there's a difference from watching it on television and there's a difference from watching it live. It's totally different. You're so engaged. You're engaged in the announcer. You're engaged in the ring girls. You're engaged in the excitement all around you. If you don't know about boxing, you could just listen to people who are around you that are familiar with it, and they'll talk about the techniques and, oh, I love the way this fighter is doing this and this fighter is doing that. It's a great atmosphere. Not only do you have boxing, but there's music and there's so many things that we do to keep our crowd engaged and excited about the event. Give it one time, and I promise you will be back every time because boxing is great. It's a great sport.
What type of advice would you give to some of the young kids in our community, both male and female, that wants to get involved in a sport like boxing? What type of advice would you give them?
I would say make sure that you are dedicated. Boxing is a sport where you have to be consistent. You have to be dedicated. You have to be willing to put in the work. Don't be so concerned with money up front. A lot of times you have fighters who are really concerned about getting money here, getting money there. If you notice back in the day, Tyson, Holyfield, these fighters didn't get paid nearly as much as fighters are getting paid now, and they fought just as hard. If you're a great fighter, it's going to show, and you're going to get the pay for it. But you have to put in the work first. Don't get into boxing as a get rich quick type thing. You'll make a couple dollars here and there, but you could get hurt in the process. So you only get in boxing if you're going to be committed to training, if you're going to be committed to that endurance of taking fights that may not pay this much, taking fights that you may not win. But you have to go into the ring every time with that attitude of, I can beat this guy. Never walk into a ring with the attitude of defeat and I'm just coming to get paid. That's the wrong reason to be in this boxing industry. We have to bring it back to where it originally started, where you have two people in the ring that are going at it, showing their skills, showing that this is truly a sport. That's what it's about. And that's what I recommend to anybody who's thinking about getting into boxing, young or old.
How do you get that individual to believe in himself, especially as a boxer who may see another boxer come in that may look intimidating?
Develop your own style. Be your own person. That boxer more than likely is just as nervous and scared as that person is, as the actual boxer who's walking into the ring. They're both walking into the same situation. The difference is they just have confidence. And that's what it is. You're going to have to create that own confidence in yourself that whatever happens, I've given it up my all and I'm going to go as hard as I can. And also it's important to make sure that you have a team around you that's going to match you up evenly. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying because you have a positive attitude and you go hard to get in with a killer if you're not ready for a killer. You make sure you know what you're prepared for. Make sure your trainer knows what you're prepared for. And just make sure that the confidence will come when you get in the ring and you really are confident in the skills that you have.
We're running out of time. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Bellonora. Where is that event coming on October the 26th?
Center Stage at NOTA 2315 North Davidson Street.
Let's go out here and support the world champion. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.
The lumberjack, hit him with that double jab. These other boxes garbage. You can say I'm taking out the trash. I enter the rain to bring pain, and these lame boxes gon' feel like got a lot of pain in my brain. So now my hands insane. From which say I'm grind hard, so y'all forget my name. We can rumble like all day, but I don't think y'all can hang, boy. Heavy hands like Tyson. You better guard your face, boy. The lumberjack with me, and he don't like defeat. If he win, he gon' eat. So he ain't trying to get beat. Y'all dudes gon' envy. That's the cost of being me. And my standards too high. May salute me like a chief. I'ma work my way up like the clock 6 to 3. Gorilla with these hands, I'll beat in your brain. Wanna check me?